What are the nearest neighbors of the United States? The list might surprise you, but like for real, not just clickbait. Quick disclaimer, the closest thing to an authoritative source on this matter appears to be a Sporkle quiz, so while I can confirm that the distances presented in this video are indeed accurate, I can't guarantee that we didn't miss a country somewhere. With that in mind, let's explore. The US's nearest neighbors are obviously Canada and Mexico, the two countries that border the US on land, and are thus exactly zero distance away. But what comes after that? If we are measuring from just the contiguous US, that is the 48 states excluding exclave Alaska and island chain Hawaii, the next obvious choices would probably be the Bahamas and Cuba, both across relatively narrow straits from the southeasternmost state of Florida. The Bahamas are the closer of the two, with the Bahamanian island of Bimini lying less than 83 kilometers or 52 miles from Miami Beach, Florida. Cuba is a little further away at under 148 kilometers or 92 miles from Ballast Key, or a little closer if you count some parts of the Florida Reef which sometimes find themselves above water. Of course, Alaska and Hawaii do exist, as do a number of non-state US territories, and there are countries closer to them than Cuba or even the Bahamas. If you've watched my video on the Bering Strait, which for some reason has 10 times the views of any of my other videos, you'll know about the two Diomede Islands, one Russian and one American, which are less than 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles apart at their closest points, making Russia and the US very nearby indeed. An even closer pair of islands are St. John in the US Virgin Islands and Great Thatch Island in the British Virgin Islands, lying a little more than 1 kilometer or under 2/3 of a mile apart from each other. This means it would take today's champion swimmers just about 10 minutes to swim between American and British territory. The various US islands in the Caribbean are responsible for several more nearby neighbors. Sticking with the US Virgin Islands, the easternmost island of St. Croix is the closest point of the US territory to several other nations in the eastern Caribbean. St. Croix lies only 140 kilometers from the Dutch island of Saba, 154 from the French half of the island of St. Martin, 185 kilometers from St. Kitts and Nevis, 252 kilometers from Venezuelan Isla Aves, 284 kilometers from Antigua and Barbuda, and 406 kilometers from Dominica. A little further to the west, the island of Monito, part of the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico, is only 58 kilometers away from the coast of the Dominican Republic. Then the tiny uninhabited territory of Navassa Island lies just 55 kilometers from Haiti and 134 kilometers from Jamaica, as well as 475 kilometers from Bajo Nuevo Bank, which is administered by Colombia but also claimed by the U.S. The Caribbean neighbors of the U.S. are certainly numerous, but not especially surprising, since most of those nations and dependencies are at least nominally part of North America. But what about in the Pacific? America's nearest Pacific neighbor is the nation of Samoa, just 66 kilometers away from American Samoa. Like the Diomede Islands, Samoa and American Samoa are on opposite sides of the international dateline, and thus spend most of their time in separate calendar days. America's second closest neighbor in the Pacific is, of all places, New Zealand. Swains Island, or Olohenga, is administered as part of American Samoa, but is geographically part of the Tokelau Island group. The rest of Tokelau is a dependency of New Zealand, notable for running on solar power and giving out free internet domains. Swains Island and Tokelau are only 178 kilometers apart. America's other close Pacific neighbors include Kiribati, lying just 224 kilometers away from Palmyra Atoll, Tonga, 354 kilometers away from American Samoa, and Micronesia, 450 kilometers away from Guam. Rounding out our list, and the Sporkle quiz, is Japan, with the island of South Iwo Jima lying only 539 kilometers from Farallon de Pajaros, the northernmost of the Northern Mariana Islands. Because of some questionable Japanese administrative decisions, South Iwo Jima, along with the rest of the Ogasawara archipelago, is legally part of Tokyo. This means that Tokyo is closer to the United States than San Francisco is to Los Angeles. So, in case you haven't been keeping track of the exact numbers, the closest countries to the US are, in order, Canada and Mexico, the UK, sort of, Russia, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Samoa, the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Netherlands, Cuba, France, New Zealand, sort of, St. Kitts and Nevis, Kiribati, Venezuela, Antigua and Barbuda, Tonga, Dominica, Micronesia, Colombia, and Japan. And as always, thanks for watching.